Jane Austen was an English novelist whose works of romantic fiction set among the gentry have earned her a place as one of the most widely read and most beloved writers in English literature. Jane Austen was born on the 16th December 1775 at the Steventon Rectory and died in 1817. Austen's works critique the novels of sensibility of the second half of the 18th century and are part of the transition to the 19th century realism. Austen's plots, though mainly comic, highlight the dependence of women on marriage to secure social standing and economic security. During Austen's lifetime, her works brought her little personal fame and only a few positive reviews. Through the mid-19th century, her novels were admired mainly by members of the literary elite. By the 1940s, Austen had become widely accepted in academia as a great English writer. Now, let's have a look at her main works. Sense and Sensibility. Sense and Sensibility was Austen's first published novel, which she wrote under the pseudonym A Lady. It was published in 1811. The story revolves around Elinor and Marian, two daughters of Mr. Dashwood by his second wife. They have a younger sister, Margaret, and an older half-brother named John. When their father dies, the family estate passes to John, and the Dashwood women are left in reduced circumstances. The novel follows the Dashwood sisters to their new home, a cottage on a distant relative's property, where they experience both romance and heartbreak. The contrast between the sisters' characters is eventually resolved as they each find love and lasting happiness. Through the events in the novel, Elinor and Marian find a balance between sense, or pure logic, and sensibility, or pure emotion, in life and love. The book has been adapted for film and television a number of times, including a 1981 serial for TV directed by Rodney Bennett and a 1995 movie adapted by Emma Thompson and directed by Ang Lee. Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice was published in 1813 as her second novel. Austen originally called the story First Impressions, but it was never published under that title. Instead, she made extensive revisions to the manuscript, then retitled and eventually published it as Pride and Prejudice. The story follows the main character, Elizabeth Bennet, as she deals with issues of manners, upbringing, moral rightness, education, and marriage in her aristocratic society of early 19th century England. Elizabeth is the second eldest of 5 daughters of a country gentleman landed in the fictional town of Meryton in Hertfordshire, not far from London. Pride and Prejudice, like most of Jane Austen's works, employs the narrative technique of free indirect speech. This has been defined as the free representation of a character's speech, by which one means not words actually spoken by a character, but the words that typify the character's thoughts, or the way the character would think or speak if she thought or spoke. By using narrative which adopts the tone and vocabulary of a particular character, in this case that of Elizabeth, Austen invites the reader to follow events from Elizabeth's viewpoint, sharing her prejudices and misapprehensions. Mansfield Park. Mansfield Park is the most controversial and perhaps the least popular of Austen's major novels. Regency critics praise the novel's wholesome morality, but many modern readers find Fanny's timidity and disapproval of the theatricals difficult to sympathize with and reject the idea that she is a better person for the relative privations of her childhood. Jane Austen's own mother thought Fanny insipid, and many other readers have found her priggish and unlikable. Other critics point out that she's a complex personality, perceptive yet given to wishful thinking, and that she shows courage and grows in self-esteem during the latter part of the story. Austen biographer Claire Tomalin, who is generally rather critical of Fanny, argues that it is in rejecting obedience in favor of the higher dictate of remaining true to her own conscience that Fanny rises to her moment of heroism. The story contains much social satire, targeted particularly at the two aunts. It is perhaps the most socially realistic Austen novel, with Fanny's family of origin, the Prices, coming from a much lower echelon of society than most Austen characters. Emma. Emma is a novel about the perils of misconstrued romance. The novel was first published in December 1815. As in her other novels, Austen explores the concerns and difficulties of genteel women living in Georgian Regency England. She also creates a lively comedy of manners among her characters. Emma Woodhouse is the first Austen heroine with no financial concerns, which she declares to the naive Miss Smith is the reason that she has no inducement to marry. This is a great departure from Austen's other novels, in which the quest for marriage and financial security are two of the several themes in the stories. Emma's ample financial resources are one of the factors that make this novel much lighter than Austen's earlier works, such as Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. Jane Fairfax's prospects, in contrast, are bleak. In contrast to other Austen heroines, Emma seems immune to romantic attraction and sexuality. While Emma differs strikingly from Austen's other heroines in these two respects, she resembles Elizabeth Bennet and Anne Elliot, among others, in another way. She is an intelligent young woman with too little to do and no ability to change her location or everyday routine. Though her family is loving and her economic status secure, Emma's everyday life is dull indeed. She has few companions her own age when the novel begins. Her determined though inept matchmaking may represent a muted protest against the narrow scope of a wealthy woman's life, especially that of a woman who is single and childless. Persuasion. Persuasion is Jane Austen's last completed novel. She began it soon after she had finished Emma, completing it in August 1816. She died aged 41 in 1817. Persuasion was published in December of that year, but dated 1818. Persuasion is widely appreciated as a moving love story despite what has been labeled as a simple plot, and exemplifies Austen's acclaim with an ironic narrative style. Austen wrote Persuasion in a hurry during the onset of the illness from which she eventually died. As a result, the novel is both shorter and arguably less polished than Mansfield Park and Emma, and was not subject to the usual pattern of a careful retrospective revision. Although the impact of Austen's failing health at the time of writing this novel cannot be overlooked, the novel is strikingly original in several ways. Persuasion is the first of Austen's novels to feature as the central character a woman who, by the standards of the time, is well past the first bloom of youth. Biographer Claire Tomalin characterizes the book as Austen's present to herself, to Miss Sharp, to Cassandra, to all women who had lost their chance in life and would never enjoy a second spring. She ends the novel with the similar theme to Pride and Prejudice, where the heroine leaves the others